Imagine you are standing on the runway of JFK Airport in New York. You are sitting in a giant jet plane. The engines begin to roar. The plane speeds down the runway. The speed steadily increases from 50, 100, and then to 200 miles per hour. But you are still on the ground. At this moment, the plane is consuming the most fuel. The engines are operating at maximum capacity. But you don't see any beautiful scenery. You only see the white painted lines flashing by. What if the pilot suddenly let off the throttle right now? The plane would stall, and you would still be at the starting point, but the fuel tank would be half empty. This is exactly the state of 90% of people when they begin their wealth-building journey. This phase is called the dead zone of finance. Most of us want to fly high, want to see the million-dollar clouds, but give up right before the plane's wheels leave the ground. And that takeoff speed number in the modern financial world of the United States is exactly the first $100,000. Charlie Munger, the late partner of Warren Buffett, once said something that left the entire investing world stunned. He said, "I don't care what you have to do, even if it means not eating anything that wasn't bought with a coupon. Find a way to get your hands on your first $100,000. Why is a billionaire so obsessed with the number $100,000? Why not $1 million or $10 million? Because the first $100,000 is not a number to be spent. It is a living creature, capable of reproducing itself. Before having $100K, you are the one working for money. You trade your time, health, and even your freedom for green bills. But the exact second you hit this milestone, a mathematical miracle begins to happen. For the first time in your life, money starts working for you. Look at this harsh reality in America. The cost of living in major cities like Austin or Seattle is skyrocketing. A $6 coffee, $2,500 rent, and financed vacations. Everything is designed to keep you on the ground forever. When you try to save $500 a month, you feel like an ant trying to move a mountain. After 1 year, you have $6,000. You look at the stock market and see it grew by 10%. You earned an extra $600. $600? That money isn't even enough to replace a set of tires on your SUV. You feel exhausted and want to give up. You tell yourself, what's the point of saving when the return is just the cost of a fancy dinner? I might as well spend it and enjoy myself. And that is exactly when the trap springs. You let off the throttle right when the plane is hitting 200 miles per hour. You don't realize that in the phase from $0 to $100,000, your effort accounts for 95% of the result. The interest is just a trivial 5%. This is the pushing a boulder up a mountain phase. It's tiring, it's tedious, and it has absolutely none of the glamour you see on Instagram. But here is the secret that wealthy people don't want you to know. The first $100,000 is the hardest part, but it is also the only part you truly have to grind for. Once you surpass this number, the wheel of compound interest starts turning on its own. Its power is so immense that you won't be able to believe it. In the next 5 minutes, we are going to unpack why the 100K number is the tipping point for freedom, and why after that, making the next 100K becomes effortless. Let's go back to the $100,000 number. Why is it the tipping point? To understand this, we need to look at a concept called the labor of capital. Imagine every dollar you save is a tiny employee working for you. When you have $1,000, you have 1,000 employees. If they work hard and bring in a 7% return per year, they will bring you $70. $70 a year? That amount isn't even enough to pay for 1 month of internet in New York. You feel your effort is meaningless. Your employees are too few, and they bring in very lackluster results. But let's see what happens when you have 100,000 employees. With that same 7% return, your army will bring in $7,000 every year. Now, let's pause for a moment. $7,000 is no longer pocket change. In the US, $7,000 can pay your entire rent for a few months, or completely pay off a year's worth of car installments. Most importantly, you earn this $7,000 without even stepping out of bed. This is when the real magic begins. When the return becomes large enough to cover actual needs, your psychology shifts. You no longer look at money as something to spend, but rather view it as a machine that is steadily growing. Look at this timeline. To save the first $100,000, an average American saving $10,000 a year will take exactly 10 years, excluding interest. But to get the next $100,000, to reach the $200K mark, it only takes you about 6 years. And to get another $100,000, reaching the $300K mark, it takes you less than 4 years. The boulder that you struggled to push at the beginning has now crossed the peak. It starts rolling down the other side on its own. Its speed gets faster and faster, and you no longer need to use all your strength to push it. You just need to stand there and steer. But here is the paradox. Why do so few people reach this $100,000 number? Why are most people in the US stuck at $5,000 or $10,000 in their savings accounts for their entire lives? That is because of a psychological phenomenon called middle stage fatigue. In the first 2 to 3 years, you sacrifice eating out. You drive an old car. You don't buy the new iPhone. You look at your account and see it increasing, but your life hasn't changed at all. You still have to go to work every day. You see your friends enjoying life, and you start doubting yourself. Our brains are extremely poor at visualizing long-term results. They want an immediate reward. It tells you, this $70 in interest is nothing. Let's withdraw it and buy a pair of designer shoes to reward your saving effort. This is exactly when 90% of people let off the throttle and crash at the end of the runway. They don't understand that they are very close to the escape velocity point where the gravity of poverty can no longer hold them back. The truth is, the first $100,000 is a battle of discipline. The next $100,000 is a battle of patience. And after that, it is merely a game of time. So, how do we get through this tedious boulder-pushing phase without burning out? There is a psychological tactic that the wealthiest people often use to trick their own brains. Tony will show you how to set up a defense system to protect your first $100,000 against the temptations of modern life. In the United States, we are living in an economy perfectly designed to drain your wallet. From ads that follow you around on Instagram to one-tap buy now buttons. The world wants you to spend money you haven't earned yet, to buy things you don't need in order to impress people you don't like. This is exactly the biggest drag keeping your financial airplane from taking off. To reach the $100,000 milestone, you don't need a genius IQ, you need a psychological fortress. The biggest mistake is believing that you have enough willpower to resist temptation every day. The truth is, willpower is a finite resource. It's like your phone battery. It drains by the end of the day. If you have to mentally struggle every time you walk past an Apple store or a car dealership, you will eventually lose. Therefore, the number one rule to hit the 100K mark the fastest is, don't use willpower. Use a system. In the US, we have excellent tools like automating money transfers into a savings account or a 401k the moment your paycheck arrives. If you don't see the money in your main checking account, you won't feel the urge to spend it. This is how we trick our pleasure-seeking brains. But there is another psychological barrier, much more terrifying. The loneliness of the saver. When you decide to push that 100K boulder, you will see your friends start upgrading their lives. They trade in for new cars. They move into fancy downtown apartments. They show off expensive meals on social media. You look back at yourself, still driving the old car, still cooking at home, and the number in your account is quietly increasing. At this moment, your brain will scream, "What the hell am I doing? Why do I have to suffer while everyone else is enjoying themselves? This is exactly when you need to understand the concept of stealth wealth. The truly wealthy people in America are usually not the ones driving luxury cars or wearing designer clothes from head to toe. They are ordinary neighbors, driving reliable cars and possessing massive investment portfolios that no one knows about. They understand that wealth is not what you spend, but what you keep. There is an interesting fact. When you reach the $100,000 mark, you will achieve a state called coast fire, meaning, even if from that moment on, you never save another penny, with the power of compound interest over 30 years, that money can grow on its own into over $1 million by the time you retire. Imagine that feeling, true freedom, knowing that your future is secured just by getting through this 100K dead zone. $100,000 doesn't just buy convenience, it buys the power to say no. Saying no to a job you hate, saying no to a terrible boss, and saying no to the anxiety every time you look at a bill. But to get there, you have to accept looking poor for a few years in order to be truly rich for the rest of your life. Are you ready to learn how to accelerate this process without having to live too austerely? If you only save $500 a month, it will take you nearly 15 years to reach the $100,000 mark, including interest. 15 years is far too long a time to maintain patience. That is why we need jet engines to shorten this distance to 4 or 5 years. Here are the 3 most practical levers that anyone in the United States can apply. Lever number 1. Increase income capacity, income arbitrage. There is a harsh truth. You cannot save $2,000 a month if your total income is only $3,000. You will burn out before seeing results. In the US, the fastest way to hit the 100K mark is not by cutting out lattes, but by increasing your income from $50,000 to $80,000. Focus on upgrading your skills. Job hopping, which is very common for getting a 20 to 30% salary bump, or starting a side hustle, leveraging the digital economy. Every extra dollar from your income is pure jet fuel, helping you push the boulder faster without having to tighten your belt excessively. Lever number 2. Control lifestyle inflation, the gap. This is where most people fail. When your income increases from 50K to 80K, your brain will immediately want to reward itself. You want a more spacious downtown apartment, a new financed car, and more expensive dinners. The secret of the first $100,000 is keep a student's level of spending for as long as possible. If you make 80K but still live like you did when making 50K, you are creating a massive gap. That gap is the shortcut to 100K. Remember, you are pretending to be poor in order to be truly wealthy. Don't let your ego eat up your own future. Lever number 3. Put the money army to work early. Index fund investing. Don't let your first $100,000 sit idle in a savings account with a 0.01% interest rate at the bank. That is wasting the labor of your money. Put them into the stock market through index funds like the S&P 500. Why? Because the S&P 500 is a collection of the 500 largest companies in the US. When you invest here, you are hiring the smartest brains in the world to work for you. Even while you are sleeping, Apple is still selling iPhones, Amazon is still delivering packages, and Google is still running ads. A portion of those profits will flow right back into your pocket. Compound interest only truly works when you start early. Don't wait until you have 100K to invest. Invest to get 100K. When you apply all 3 of these levers, a strange thing will happen to your psychology. You will start to feel addicted to watching your wealth number increase. The high from spending will be replaced by the high from building. You start to realize that owning $100,000 brings a sense of security and confidence 100 times greater than owning a luxury item. That is when your psychological fortress is complete. You are no longer a slave to flashy ads. Have become a true investor. But be careful. The final phase right before hitting the 100K mark is usually the hardest. It is like the final miles of a marathon. You are so close. The number in your account is at $90,000. At this moment, a strange phenomenon will occur, a burst of impatience. You have been pushing this boulder for years. You are tired. You just want to rest for a bit. This is the final mile of the marathon. Your legs are giving out, and your mind starts painting grand spending scenarios to reward yourself. But listen closely. This is when you need to keep the coolest head, because the final $10,000 to hit the 100K mark is often the most symbolic money. When the $100,000 number pops up on the screen, stop for a second and take a deep breath. You are not just seeing 6 digits. You are looking at ironclad proof that you have mastered yourself. You have defeated the billion-dollar advertising system, defeated social envy, and defeated your own laziness. And here is the true reward of mathematics that Tony wants to give you. To earn the first $100,000, it might take you 10 years of grueling labor. But did you know that if you continue to maintain that discipline, your first $1 million will come much faster than you think? In the financial world, people often say, the first $100,000 takes 1/3 of the time to become a millionaire, but it only accounts for 1/10 of the money. What does that mean? It means the majority of the hardest time is already behind you. From 100K to $1 million, the power of compound interest will take over most of the boulder-pushing work for you. At this point,
allocator of
you are
capital,
no longer
my strategy
a mere
focuses on
laborer.
maximizing
You have
returns
become an
while minimizing
allocator of
risk.
capital. Your job now is not to work harder, but to keep your money printing machine running uninterrupted. Don't withdraw money to buy a Porsche just because you already have 100K. Let that 100K continue to reproduce. Imagine $100,000 as an ancient oak tree seed. If you eat that seed right now, you will have one full meal. But if you patiently plant it and care for it, it will grow into a giant canopy, sheltering your entire family for a lifetime. True wealth in the United States does not come from a lucky strike or winning the lottery. It comes from ordinary people doing ordinary things, but with an extraordinary perseverance to overcome this first $100,000 milestone. Don't wait until you have a lot of money to start managing it. Start managing
I just earned
right from the
$10.
first $10. Set up an automated system today. Learn to love the slowly growing numbers in the early stages. And most importantly, believe that you can do it. Because every millionaire you see out there, they also started by pushing a heavy boulder, just like you are right now. The 100K finish line is not the end. It is the beginning of a life that you completely master. Thank you for joining Tony on the journey of decoding the $100,000 milestone today. If you feel this video has given you the motivation to keep pushing the boulder, please hit like and subscribe to build your own financial fortress with Tony. Leave a comment below. I am committed to hitting 100K to remind yourself every day. I am Tony, and this is Tony Invests Wealth. Wishing you to soon reach escape velocity and fly high in the sky of financial freedom. See you guys in the next videos.